the early 1880s, they're building the Pensacola Atlantic Railroad, the first railroad connection between Pensacola, Tallahassee, and eastward. And William D. Chipley and Fred DeFuniak had stopped here surveying the area, found this beautiful round lake, said this would be a great place for our future community. The story goes that Chipley wanted to name it after himself, but apparently, as the story goes, in a card game, Fred DeFuniak won the honor of naming this town after himself. So in the early 1880s, they had the depot up there. In fact, the depot, which is a museum today, is the original 1880s depot that the P&A and eventually the L&N CSX took over. And now it's a museum. The 1880s library, the DeFuniak Springs Library, is one of the oldest libraries in the state of Florida that's serving its same function on its own foundation. The Chautauqua was a movement in New York, and it came to other areas, sort of like teaching people about arts and culture, hygiene, sanitation, before radio and television was a way for people to learn about the world around them. They wanted a winter Chautauqua, and so Florida became a target area in the 1880s, and DeFuniak Springs got the winter Chautauqua. People would come from far as Memphis, Atlanta, New Orleans, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Pensacola, over to the Chautauqua. Here's the Hall of Brotherhood, which is behind us. There used to be an auditorium that goes down to the lake shore. They held about 3,000 to 5,000 people, and they would have all these different courses for several weeks on bettering yourself, and you know, today like continuing education classes would be the closest thing. And it was a big deal back in that time period. Eventually it shut down, but about 20 years ago, a group of people revitalized the Chautauqua, and every January, February, they have meetings here around DeFuniak Springs.
But the history of the lake itself, you say on the maps there was no lake here in 1850?
Yeah, the lake itself is almost circular, and for the early 1800s, none of the maps of the area show it. There's also no prehistoric Native American sites along it, so it's probably a sinkhole that started in the 1850s. That's the first time I've actually seen reference to it. There's no records of a historical record or the maps of the period, so it probably was of some limestone they eroded out and created a giant sinkhole. It is spring fed.
It's a fascinating town, and the little town is really neat, all built all around that place.
All around the circle. They call this walking the circle, filled with all these beautiful homes. You've got Victorian, Queen Anne, you've got some prairie style, neoclassical. As you go around the lake, it's a beautiful collection of historic homes from like the 1880s up until the 1920s.
This is just one.